And this is going to be an incident that occurred Friday, December the 6th, right about 5:30 in the afternoon. At that time, officers from the Northwest Policing District responded to an apartment complex by the name of the Butterfly Grove Apartments located in the 5200 block of North Fresno Street for a report of a shooting victim. When officers arrived, they located 22-year-old Jessinya Mina, suffering from a single gunshot wound to her upper body. The officers encountered this individual as she was being self-transported via private vehicle, by her boyfriend, 18-year-old Andrew Sanchez. The instructions that were provided to those individuals was to stop their vehicle and wait for police and fire and EMS to arrive on scene, and they did in relatively short order. They immediately provided life-saving measures for Mina, which point in time she was transported to Community Regional Medical Center. Unfortunately, Mina did not survive her injuries, and she was pronounced deceased a short time later. What we learned in this incident is that this is a very tragic and a very much preventable and avoidable incident. Mr. Sanchez is an 18-year-old man who does not have any criminal history, does not have any connections with any type of gang, but for reasons that are of his own opinion, or the reasons why he felt it was necessary to carry a firearm. He had one, and that firearm was stored in his residence or their apartment where he resided with Jessinya Mina, and it was done so in a negligent manner. He left that firearm in an area that was accessible to a 2-year-old, actually 2.5-year-old toddler at that location. It's important to note that Jessinya Mina did have 2 children. One of them was an 8-month-old infant, and the other one was a 2.5-year-old male toddler. As I mentioned, the firearm was stored in a location where the toddler accessed the firearm, and then at some point in time while handling that particular weapon, the toddler was able to manipulate the trigger, and it actually struck Mina as she was lying in bed. Once the discharge of that firearm occurred, Andrew and other roommates attempted to assist Mina by giving her life-saving measures. They loaded her into a personal vehicle, as I mentioned, and were in the process of transporting her to the hospital when they made the 911 call, and instructions were made to actually remain at the location and wait for police and fire to arrive. Because Andrew had this weapon and stored it in a location that was negligent, he was immediately detained. He was transported to the police department, where he provided a statement indicating to us that he was in fact responsible for placing the weapon in a location where it could be accessed. And because of those actions, the incident resulted in the death of an individual. So Mr. Sanchez was booked that evening for negligent storage of a firearm, including felony child endangerment. Since then, we have learned that Mr. Sanchez has bailed out, and we're continuing to work this investigation forward, collaborating with the district attorney's office to see the appropriate charges that are going to be filed. It is important to note that at this point in time, at this stage in the investigation, it appears to be a tragedy. However, there is still more work to be done, which includes the autopsy of Jessinya Mina and also a forensic analysis of the evidence that we have collected. We did recover the firearm that was used in this case. It was a 9mm Kel-Tec firearm. It's also important to note that this particular type of firearm does not have any type of external safety feature. It is a striker-fired weapon, and although the trigger pull is determined somewhere between 5.5 to 6.5 pounds, it is conceivable, and it has happened in the past, where children have accessed the firearm and had sufficient strength to manipulate the trigger. And all indications at this point indicate that that is in fact what happened. So I can tell you that the Fresno Police Department is deeply saddened by this type of tragedy that's devastating and definitely serves as a stark reminder of the significance and importance of being able to properly store your weapon and do so in a manner that children do not access it. And for children that are watching this or that hear that, if you see a firearm, leave it alone, don't touch it, tell an adult. I'll say that again. If you see a firearm, leave it alone, don't touch it, tell an adult. Unfortunately, in this case, we're talking about a 2.5-year-old child who probably didn't even have enough gumption to understand what was happening. So tragedies such as this, as I mentioned, they cause a ripple effect for the loved ones, and they leave an indelible mark on our community and for the family that's been affected at this point. So, even though the investigation is still ongoing and we have not definitively come to a conclusion, that's the way that the direction is going thus far.
Was it one shot and was she hit in the head?
No, it was not one shot, and she was struck in the upper body. That is a good question, ma'am. The firearm or the provenance of that weapon is still under investigation. It has the weapon itself, when we run it through our system, doesn't come back to any hit. Doesn't say that it's actually, doesn't have any information. Doesn't show who's registered to, whether it's stolen, things of that sort. So we're working with our ATF partners to figure out what we call an e-trace to get a little bit more information on that.
You said other children were in the apartment. Where are they at right now? Are they with Child Protective Services or with her family?
Yeah, they are actually with Mina's parents, and they were actually instrumental in this investigation early on. The children were not present by the time police arrived. Other family members had responded and picked up the children. There's no indication that the children are in any type of danger. However, it is a standard procedure for us to make contact with Child Protective Services and make that referral.
And 5:30 in the afternoon, I mean, that's not the normal time to be napping, or?
Yeah, that from what we gather or from what we understand, they were planning to have an evening out, and they were just relaxing on the bed when this happened.
I can't imagine the psychological impact on a 2.5-year-old who shoots someone and then kills them. What are the next steps for children, for this child?
Unfortunately, that's not something that we particularly deal with here at the police department. Our job is to conduct an investigation in this case, and as you can imagine, it's difficult because we are having to wrestle with the idea that it's even conceivable that a 2.5-year-old child would have sufficient strength to manipulate a firearm. I can tell you that the investigation that we conducted, without going into too many details of the statement with Andrew Sanchez, we believe his veracity. We believe that the evidence supports the statement that was made, and we've done a very thorough investigation thus far of the crime scene itself, which included locating the single shell casing, included measurements of the children, the measurement of the bed in relation to the floor, and how if the injuries are going to be consistent when we actually do the autopsy. At this point, it does appear that way, but like I said, with just it's important to say that I want to make sure that this is the way the investigation points thus far. There's no indication otherwise, but I don't want to paint myself into a corner because we have to be open because our job is to be fair, impartial, and objective.
Again, you said there was one shot.
That is correct, one shot.
And where in the house was the gun? Was it in the bedroom with the...
Yeah, we located the firearm. I'm just going to say that. We located the firearm.
It was stored in the bedroom?
The weapon, we believe, was at the time that the toddler accessed the weapon, was stored in the actual bedroom itself. And suffice to say, it was loaded with one in the chamber.
Did the suspects share any children with the victim? Or
No, they did not. They did not have any children in common.
Just so we're clear in the language, so you're still investigating it like a homicide, or are you not investigating it like a homicide, just to be clear?
Oh, to be clear, these type of cases, when we're talking about the death of an individual at the hands of another, does meet and elevate us to the rise of a homicide investigation. Whether or not it qualifies as a murder has yet to be determined. And that's going to do a lot with, we're still not done with this case. There's still some work to be done, which includes looking at the negligent storage of this firearm resulting in the death of another. That particular section is, in fact, covered under the Penal Code. There are sections specifically for that. But is that rise to the level of manslaughter or involuntary manslaughter? We don't know yet. And it's going to be up to us to complete this investigation thoroughly, document it accordingly, and once we're done doing so, then we ship this case over to the district attorney's office where they have the expertise in that area to make that determination and file charges appropriately.
So then this would be the 28th homicide?
No, ma'am. As I mentioned, we had 29 murders year to date. This is not considered a murder at this point.
Hi, I'm Monty Torres with Fox 26 News on YouTube. Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel, where we have loads of great content for you to choose from. And while you're here, why not click on the subscribe button right here? That way you can stay in touch with all the latest breaking news, everything news related within the Central Valley. And thank you for watching.